Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back with my February book haul. So some of the books that I was sent by publishers, all the books that I bought myself, and one lovely gift that I got, which was a treat. As always, I'm going to start with the books from publishers. As I mentioned in my last haul back in January, no it wasn't, it was actually back in February, but I always do these at the start of the next month because we're in March now. More possibly on that later. I said back in my last haul that I'm now just choosing the books that I get from publishers that I really want to get to or that I've asked for, and I will clarify that as I go through these books. There are other books that come in, and I think what I'm going to start doing now with those books that don't initially seem very me, that have come unsolicited, I am going to try them out in like a try a chapter video over on Patreon. So there we go, there's that. I did also ask last month if you wanted to see books that I had mentioned on the channel before that are either coming out in paperback or in the finished versions of a proof compared to the proof that I'd shown before. Hope that'll make sense. It should make sense in a sec when I actually get talking about the books, which I shall do. So, up first, this is a paperback edition of a book that came out last year that I absolutely loved, and that was Violets by Alex Hyde. And I have a couple of copies of this because, and I'm still pinching myself, there is a quote, let's see if I can put it, yep, there you go, from me on the back of the book. I mean, imagine, I am absolutely beside myself. I'm so beside myself, I can't say it. I'm going to be giving one of these away on Instagram in the next few weeks. If you're not following me on Instagram, please do. I'd love to have you over there. On to the first of two finished books that I have mentioned on the channel before, and they don't look that different from the proof, to be fair. Sometimes they can be wildly different. This is Scorched Grace by Margot Duai, and this is about a crime detecting nun, and it just sounds amazing to me. I think it's queer, and that makes me want to read it all the more. I'm very excited for this one, and I think I may read this on a plane journey that I've got coming up. I really like when I'm going on planes to have a thriller to read because it makes me forget that I'm in a large tin can thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of feet above the ground. I have a finished copy of Old Babes in the Wood by Margaret Atwood, which is her new short story collection, which is out I think next week as this video goes live. I have read the first 3 or 4. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm planning on carrying on reading it throughout March, so I will hopefully report back in my March wrap up. My February wrap up will be arriving next week. I'm going to bunch these together, partly because it means we can get through more books quickly, but also because I don't know too much about them. The publisher, though, I had on my radar because of a book that I bought that I'll be talking about later, and I saw their Instagram, I was like, oh my goodness, their Instagram is stunning, all their aesthetics are stunning. And I just retweeted and said how amazing I thought they were. And they very kindly messaged me and said, would you like us to send you a beginner's selection? I was like, yes, please. The publisher is McNally Editions. I think this might be my favourite book cover of the year. It's Daddy's Gone A-Hunting by Penelope Mortimer. I also have this as a Persephone edition, but I just think that is absolutely stunning. I love it. Ooh, it's me again. Betrayed by Rita Hayworth by Manuel Puig, which I'm intrigued by. Again, something going on with the face thing here. I wonder if I could do a... No, I can't because the book's in the way, but I may try and do that at some point. We'll see. I have seen a lot of people recreating the cover of another book that I bought from Manali Jackson before they kindly sent me these. Then I have An Obedient Father by Akhil Sharma, who's an author actually I've wanted to read for quite a while. Again, just stunning. Really beautiful. These come off, I just think, such a nice way to, I don't know. There's something so simplistic yet stylish yet, about it. The Feast by Margaret Kennedy, which came out here from Faber, I think, last year or the year before. And there was a big, fanfare for it because it had been kind of forgotten. And that is what these books are all about, I should say. They're very like Persephone, actually, in the fact that they're publishing books that have been a little bit forgotten from the past. And I'm much more about backlist this year, as I think my next, I'm just looking now, wrap up will attest. Maybe not so much actually, but my January one certainly did. And then last but not least, but probably the one that I think, I don't know how I'll get on with this one, is Emily Dickinson Face to Face by Martha Dickinson Bianchi. And I think this is about Emily Dickinson. I don't know too much about her. I do know that I should watch the series on Apple. Loads of people have told me to watch that, and maybe that would be good to watch that and then maybe read some of her poetry and then read this. That could be a whole little project of its own, thanks to the folk at Midnight Jackson. So there we go, we have those. I think they are stunning, absolutely stunning, and their Instagram is wildly beautiful. Then on to some, I do them in size order, so I was going to say proofs, but some of them, are they all proofs? We'll see. This one certainly is. I'm so excited about this. I feel like I don't even need to show you this book if I simply say that it's narrated by a queer, dangerously hungry mountain lion. Like, who wouldn't want to read that book instantly? It's Open Throat by Henry Hoke, which is out from Picador. And actually, that's not the official cover. That's just a beautiful mountain lion. And it says, I've never eaten a person, but today I might. And I'm going to be reading this very soon. It's told in vignettes, which I also love. So I think this could be a favourite of 2023 for me. I was also sent with this from Picador, The Centre by Aisha Manazir I can't see it because my hand's covering it up, Siddiqui. And this is all about a centre where apparently you can go and you'll speak a fluent language within days. But of course, there's got to be something more sinister going on, hasn't there? Nothing comes for free like that. And we follow a young woman as she goes and what happens there. And the cover again, honestly, the covers this year, wild, love it. Oh no, I can't do that. Me trying to be clever with book covers, not going to be a thing. The lovely folk at Hutchinson sent me the proof of Neil Blackmore's latest book, Radical Love. I was talking about how I want to read a lot more historical queer fiction, and this, I believe, fits the bill. It's set 200 years ago and looks at what it was like for gay men then. So yeah, I'm intrigued with this. I also have his 2 previous novels, so I really need to get a bit of a Neil Blackmore wriggle on, as it were. Another queer book, and I have shown this actually before, so I should have shown this earlier, naughty me, but this is the UK edition. It's Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen, and this is, I believe, a bit of a mixture of like The Hunger Games and sort of Love Island, except there happens to also be a giant lesbian ape, like the equivalent of King Kong, I think. And again, a bit like a queer, dangerously hungry mountain lion narrating a book. I'm here for this wild and wacky number. I think it's going to be a real treat. Queer and quirky. The lovely Anton Herr got his American publisher to send me this, which is Counterweight, and it's by Juna and it's translated by Anton. I don't know what this is about. I think this is going to be quite, again, wild and wacky. I didn't need to know anything about it. I feel like I just want to read everything Anton Herr translates, because I just think he's got a brilliant taste in a real mixed variety of books. And yeah, I've got a bit of a book crush on Anton, and therefore just want to read everything that he's ever laid his mitts on, as it were. The lovely Tamor Sumru's editor very kindly sent me editors? No, sent me... I was going to say editors to a writer of colour. I mean, there was editing involved. And actually, this is edited by Tamor Sumru and Deepa and Napara. And I did a video with Tamor, which I'll link down below, where we chatted about his debut. And then this is an anthology of just different authors of colour writing about, well, just writing letters about all sorts of things. So it could be on resisting rigid stories about who you are. It could be how writing builds the room in which it can exist, on queering English and the power of refusing to translate ourselves, all sorts. I think this is going to be a real treat, and I'm really chuffed that I got sent a early copy. I should know when some of these come out, but I don't, so I've been dreadful. Shall we do a quick recap and see if I can see when this... So I think that one's out in July. That's the queer, dangerously hungry mountain lion. The Centre is out in July as well. Radical Love is out in June. Sorry, I've got to get better at this. Oh, and I also should say, let's almost like rewind, because I did ask for this one. I did ask for this one. Well, I didn't ask for this one. I hinted that I would like this one. Then I said yes to getting Radical Love, which is out in June, when I was asking for another book from this publisher. Patricia Wants a Cuddle. I don't know when that's out, because this is the finished edition, so I assume quite soon. And this is out in July 2023 in America. I don't know when it's coming out into the UK. Soz about that. And then, and obviously, Anton asked if I'd like it, and I said yes. And this one, Tamor, asked if I'd like it, and I said yes. And yeah, this one is out. Oh, it doesn't say, because again, this is a finished copy. I feel like it might be April. I don't know why, but I feel like it is. Then, from the lovely folk at Europa Editions, I have All Your Children Scattered by Beta Umuyeyi Mares. I hope I've said that right. And this sounds like it's going to be utterly heartbreaking, but I think I'm going to possibly just find it so mind-blowingly fascinating. I really love fiction from Africa. I was talking about this in an event with Ayobami Adebayo yesterday. It's something that I want to kind of get even more into, and this is based on the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. And so yeah, I think it's going to be horrifying, especially because it's based on true facts, but also eye-opening because I don't feel I know enough about what has happened in other countries around the world, and I would like to know more. So I'm intrigued for this one. I'm doing an event with this author next Friday on the 10th of March. This is Clytemnestra by Costanza Casati, and I'm really excited for this. Classical myth retelling. My mum's fuming that she can't attend. I think she's probably fuming that she can't host it. The finished edition is even more beautiful than this, and I will be getting my mitts on that at some point, so I'll be reading this. So obviously that came for an event that I'm going to be doing. And then unsolicited, but absolutely bang on the sort of book that I'm looking to head to this year, because I dabbled with, going back to Anton Hurt, I didn't dabble with him, let's not start that rumour, but I did dabble in reading Korean literature through him and his translations, and this has arrived, which is Another Person by Kang Hwagil, and this is translated by Claire Richards. And the pitch that I got, the PR press release, was basically saying it's about some sort of note that goes on a chat site about a woman who was a dirty cleaner or something, and it jolts somebody who sees it to a time when they were sexually assaulted at work, and we follow on from there. And I think it's just going to be a fascinating book. Quite, again, disturbing, but I don't know. It feels odd to say, oh, I really like books that really disturb me, but I think there is something about being able to read quite difficult things from the comfort of an armchair or your bed or your bath or wherever it is you choose to read. That means that we open ourselves to all things in the world, not just the good and the fun, but I think we need to read about the dark stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. Thoughts on that? Down below. On to Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh. Now, this may surprise some of you because I wasn't a big fan of The Water Cure, but the blurb around this, or the buzz that I heard around this, and it being based on a true poisoning of a whole village, quite possibly by the bread, that sort of plot, just I'm oh, I think I'm realising more and more I really enjoy fiction based around fact, or faction as I suppose some people call it. And this is one such book. So yeah, a short, sharp, but brilliant book. I'm looking forward to getting to that. The publisher asked if I would like a copy of One Small Voice by Santanu Bachara. And I said yes, because another country that I love reading about, that I've never been to, is India. And this starts off in the riots, I think, of 1992. And this, I think, young boy sees something really horrific that his family then just brush under the carpet, but is with him forevermore. And it's how everything builds from that. I just think that sounds really interesting, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting to that one. Then we have a book that I asked the publisher for. They'd actually offered it me last year, and for some reason I've not seen the email, but this won the Murky Books New Writers Prize. It's Things That We Lost by Jyoti Patel, and I was reminded of this when I saw Eric and Anna doing their predictions for the Women's Prize, and Anna mentioned this one. I was like, oh, I've been meaning to get a copy of that, so I checked my emails and I had been offered it and had just not seen it, so I sent a very humble pie apology for not having got back to them, and then very kindly was sent this along with the Neil Blackmore and this book, which is coming out in September. The other ones that I've mentioned so far, I think, are all out around now because they're finished editions. This is one of my most anticipated books of the entire year. I am so excited for this. So excited for this. It's The Land of Milk and Honey by C. Pam Zhang, whose debut I just absolutely loved. and it's all these hills full of gold. I think I've just said that wrong. How much of these hills is gold? I absolutely loved it. This sounds a little bit like The Menu, the movie, that if you've not seen it, you need to see because it's bonkers. And that intrigues me all the more because it seems like a really different book from the previous one. And I love that. For me, that's like such excitement about an author that they're writing such different things. Very excited for that one. The next one I know next to nothing about, other than I love the author and I really want to get into more sort of fantastical / fantasy stuff here and there, and I feel like this could be a good series for me to read to do that. This, you can't tell from the cover, which says The Earth is Stirring, is In the Shadow of the Wolf Queen by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, and everyone that I know who knows about this series is like so ridiculously excited about it. I am also. Oh, an epic new trilogy begins in August, but I have it right now. I'm really, oh, look at those end papers. How nice is that? Oh, it's all about the green. I've been umming and ahhing. I haven't done the thumbnail yet, and I haven't decided what colour I'm going to make the text, but I think it might be this green, because purple is my favourite colour. Mentioning that, the prompt, the savage prompt, if you want to join in with the prompts that me and my mum are doing that lots of you picked this year for us, is to read a book with your favourite colour on the cover. I'm getting more and more into green. I've always said purple is my favourite colour, but I feel like green is beginning to be. Anyway, sorry, that was a tangent. On to a book with a colour in the title, so let's use that as a segue. We have Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, who is also known as R.F. Kuang, who has written The Poppy Wars and also Babel, which people have gone wild about. This is her first foray into literary fiction. This is a literary thriller about, and I just think this sounds so brilliant, it's about two women who are writers. One's really successful, one isn't. The successful one is writing what is going to probably be their best book. She dies and the other, or vanishes, and the other one takes over her persona and pretends that she'd written this book. However, in doing so, she has to create another persona because she's also culturally appropriating that person. And I've heard it's an incredible thriller that does not hold any punches on how it gets into or gets at the publishing industry. I think it's going to be fascinating. I know nothing of the next book other than I really enjoyed. Oh, Simon. This is out in May. What a fool. So that one. This next one is out in April, and like I said, I have no idea what it's about, but I really enjoyed the author's previous novel, Ordinary People. It's A House for Alice by Diana Evans, and I absolutely love that cover. I've got a feeling it might be like about all the people who live in a house, or possibly in like shared house, and that I really enjoy. If it's not about that, I'm sure I'll still enjoy it because, like I said, I don't know anything about it. This proof, I feel a little bit like Naughty holding up because I don't quite feel like I deserve it, because I've read a couple of books by this author and I enjoyed one more than the other, and then I tried to read their recent book and just didn't quite get into it, but I do want to read it because it's about nuns, and over the road from me is a house where retired nuns live, and they're lovely and they collect my book parcels when I'm not in, and there's just, I don't know, I always want to find out about their lives before retirement. Anyway, we're not talking about nuns or anything, we're talking about Lauren Groff's new book, which is out in September and is called The Vaster Wilds. Don't know what it's about, but I know that Lauren Groff is an author I want to get to know more. I really want to read, is it The Monsters of Templeton? Yes, because Fates and Furies I thought was pretty good. And then Florida, I think it's Florida or Arcadia, that I wasn't so sure about. Anyway, this is her new one. It's out in September. It'll look different from this, so if I get the finished copy, I'll show you that at some point. Then we have a book that I didn't ask for, but I would have. I didn't have a contact with the publishers, but now I do, so watch out, Fleet, because I'll be emailing. This is Rebecca Mackay's I Have Some Questions For You. Now, I absolutely loved Rebecca Mackay's first novel, The Borrower, and then I really loved The 100-Year-Old House, which goes in all sorts of different timelines, which I thought was brilliant. The Borrower is about a young queer kid who goes to the library and his family are trying to have him sort of straightened out, and it's basically about a librarian who sort of, well, I want to say kidnaps, but he's willing to be kidnapped this child and what follows on from there. It's brilliant. I didn't get on with The Great Believers so well, so I've never finished it, but at some point I will head back to it, I think. This, I believe, is set, I think this is kind of, people are describing this as dark academia. It's set, well, it's a campus novel. I will be getting to this because I really, really like her writing. And then 3 books that I asked for to finish up books from publishers before we head to books I bought myself. I have All the Little Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow. And this sounds like a beautiful novel about mothers and daughters. And I can't pretend it wasn't the cover that kind of caught my eye. I just hadn't heard anything about it, and that always really, really excites me. And then, yeah, when I was reading it was about mothers and daughters, I was just like, oh, that sounds like it could be my kind of thing. But yeah, that cover is absolutely the one. Birds on the next cover, and this I've just heard loads of good things about. It's River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer, and this is about a woman who has, I don't know how, but they have lost their child, and it's her journey to try and find them. And I can't remember where it's set, although on the back it says An Extraordinary Odyssey of Pain. Love and Homecoming, though, a haunting and powerful book. But it's set on, it's in 1834, and it goes from the cane fields of Barbados to the forests of British Guyana and on to Trinidad. And I would like to read a lot more Caribbean writing this year, because when I've read it before, I've really, really enjoyed it. And last but not least, from publishers, and possibly one of my favourite covers of the year, and I just think this is going to be absolutely incredible, and kind of want to just read it right now, frankly. Stuff filming this. I'm going to go and read this instead. No, it's Dazzling by Chikodili Emelumadu. And this, I know Tracy Chevalier does not put a lot of blurbs on books, and she has blurbed this, so that's a doubly good sign. But this is about 2 different young women. One, I talked about this in my Women's Prediction Prize video, which I'll link down below if you missed it. Long list is coming soon. Very excited. Mum's coming this weekend so we can film a reaction. Ridiculously excited. There'll be much excitement. It's exciting. Have I mentioned it's exciting? This is Dazzling. One of the young women is having a really hard time with her family, and so she makes a bargain with a spirit at a market. And the other one, due to her father's line, inherits the ability to turn into a leopard. Oh, that is enough for me, without the fact that there's some ways that there is some way in which these 2 stories converge. Just sounds, that's like savage catnip. Anyway, I'm going to put these down, I'm going to have a quick drink, and I'll be back to talk to you about the book that I was given as a gift very kindly, and then the books that I bought myself, which won't be that many because I have reined it in after the last haul where I went ridiculous, although it seems to have gone the opposite way with books from publishers. Right, we're back in a sec. I'm back, and I also had a quick word, which is why you might be able to hear my obnoxious toilet refilling. It's Victorian. It takes ages. It does it really loudly and then sings at the end when it's finished, which you may well hear. Anyway, moving on to books after that small random interlude. I was very kindly gifted this book when I was in Italy. And actually, before I mention it, a lot of you have been asking if I have got a wish list open because it's my birthday in March. I do. It's linked down below. If you'd like to buy me a book, that'd be absolutely lovely. I only have books on that wish list that I can't get in the UK from an indie or one of our chains here, bookshops. So yeah, anyway, speaking of bookshops, this was very kindly given to me by Julia, who runs Etta's bookshop in Lucca. My Italian reading blog hasn't arrived yet. It should be with you all on Sunday. It includes lots of me reading, well, possibly failing to read a couple of books, who can say? What a tease. It also includes a couple of bookshops and a beautiful old book market, and lots and lots of food. Lots of you said you wanted food in my vlogs. Believe me, there's so much food in that video. I'm amazed that I didn't, well, I was amazed that the plane managed to take off, actually, frankly. Anyway, while I was there in Lucca, I went to Etta's bookshop, which I wanted to go to for ages because it was set up before the pandemic and has survived it. And yeah, Julia very kindly gave me this, which is Catastrophe and Other Stories by Dino Buzzati. Now, I haven't read many of them, but I am reading it, and they are so good. They remind me of everything I love about Karis Davies' short stories, and she's probably my favourite short story writer of them all. It's because every single one surprises you in some kind of way. I'm not going to say it's twisty-turny, although there are some twists and turns, but it's more surprising, and just so far, I've loved every single one. Not a single one has been a dud, and I'm like 5 in, so that's very exciting. I, of course, bought myself a book while I was there, and the book that I got was Giorgio Bassani's Within the Walls, and I chose this because Lucca is a walled city. This is set in the, I don't know if it's fictional or not actually, city of Ferrara, and this is the first of a series of books that end up becoming the novel of Ferrara, and I just love the sound of the blurb. And I don't like reading blurbs a lot because I think it's really boring to watch, and I know quite a lot of you do as well. There we go, the toilet sang at the end. Thank you. The characters or situations here are a young woman abandoned by her lover, a girl captured in a faded photograph, a Holocaust survivor seemingly back from the dead, the death of a heroine, a silent witness to the city's first wartime atrocity. I just think this is going to be absolutely brilliant. I ordered from Blackwell's Abide With Me by Elizabeth Strout because that is her second novel, and I'm going to start reading them in order of publication after having loved her Lucy Barton books last year, so we have that one. I saw this on Instagram and I can't remember who was sharing it, but I want to thank them because I hadn't heard about it and it sounds great. This is The Words That Remain by Stenio Gardel, translated from Brazilian Portuguese by Bruna Dantas Labato, and this is about a man looking back at a relationship that he had decades before, a queer relationship that he had decades before, and so just couldn't talk about it. And it looks, I think, at how, let's hold it like that. It looks at how their love was thwarted, possibly because of that. And I do kind of get a bit sick of the sad queer narrative novel. However, when it's done brilliantly and when it reveals what it's like for people in another country, it isn't queer and well, I suppose it is historical, so it's looking back. Anyway, I wanted to read it because the blurb sounded amazing. I picked up the next set of books in Oxford, and I did a whole vlog of taking you lovely lot around bookshops and libraries in Oxford, which I'll link down below if you want to go watch that. I do really, really appreciate you watching my vlogs. I know vlogs aren't for everyone, but they're some of the videos that I most enjoy making, I think. Like, I do love sitting down and having a chat, obviously, but there's just different things involved editing wise in those. Like, this will probably be me highlighting the amount of times I've fluffed up so far, but there's something about the B-roll and everything of vlogs and editing those that I really enjoy. Anyway, in Oxford, I bought this from Blackwell's, which is an essay by Umberto Saba, translated by Mark Thompson, which is about a young queer man in Italy. I think it's based on the author's life. He died before it was finished, and so it was published posthumously. I almost said hummusly, that's quite wrong. I think this has the feels of the Morris about it, a celebrated author who was hiding their sexuality, and then the story came out. I got another Elizabeth Strout in Oxford, in Oxfam. This is Olive Kitteridge. I'm saving Olive's books probably till last. I think they might actually be chronologically later on, before Lucy or betwixt Lucy or whatever. You don't need to correct me on that one. If anyone's tempted there, I'll find out as I go. I promise I'll read them in the right order. But yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this. Everyone says that Olive is a very different character from Lucy, but in a really, really good way. I also, because in Gulp Fiction, you can buy a book of specific tables and get a free coffee, and why was I not going to do that? And it was great coffee. Picked up The Shutter of Snow by Emily Holmes Coleman, which is one of the new beautiful Faber editions that they're doing. I mean, honestly, that cover, it's a good time yet. It's a lady in a bath thinking about whatever's going on. Oh, there we go. And yeah, this just sounds incredible. This is based on the author's mother and her mental health and what happened to her. I think she ends up in an asylum, and it was all to do with her postnatal, or what would become known as postnatal depression, which I think the author may have had too. So it looks at that through fiction. Sounds fascinating. I have loved watching The First Lady, which is on Paramount Plus here in the UK. That's not spawn or ad. I just found it and I'm obsessed with, I love Gillian Anderson, I love Michelle Pfeiffer, and I love Viola Davis, and they play Eleanor Roosevelt, Betty Ford, and Michelle Obama. And the story of Eleanor Roosevelt and her possible bisexuality fascinated me. And so I picked up Amy Bloom's White Houses, which is about the relationship between Hick, a journalist, and Eleanor Roosevelt, who I have become fascinated by. I think she is an incredible, incredible woman. I didn't get that in Oxford though, so I've gone out of order, and it's because the size of the books changed. We'll come to 3 more books that I got in Oxford shortly. Sorry, we're off higgledy-piggledy here, there and everywhere. I wish I could be like seamless, no ums, no ers, no mistakes, but that's not life. I'm human, I make mistakes all the time. Then we have, before going back to those 3 final books that I got in Oxford, Mark Hyatt's Love Leader, and this really intrigued me. It's a book that is being published for the first time, or if it came out, I don't think it was read by many and sort of vanished. And it's, I think, slightly autobiographical, but it's set in the 1960s in London and looks at what it was like to be a working class queer man at that time. And yeah, I'm intrigued for this that suddenly appeared and lots of people are talking about. Then the next 2 books I can sort of put together because they're all Persephones, and I got all 3 of these in an Oxfam in Oxford. I was so chuffed. £2.50 each. You can't go wrong with that, can you? I got The Homemaker by Dorothy Canfield Fisher, which is in one of the most of the Persephones are like this, but they occasionally do them like that. I don't know if they call those ones the classic. Yeah, Persephone classics, and the other ones aren't, but to me they're all classics. Anyway, then we have Princes in the Land by Joanna Cannon, not Joanna Cannon. That's confusing. I'm doing an event with Joanna Cannon this month. Very excited about it. So we have that one, and we have Patience by John Coates, and it's not often that Persephone publish books by men, but I'm intrigued that they have, and I'm intrigued that one of them is Wilkie Collins, actually, and I'm amazed I haven't got to that one yet. Then, again, I can't remember who recommended this on Instagram. I should make notes, I'm dreadful. I saw somebody talking about Anatomy of Want by Daniel W.K. Lee, and I will admit, the cover drew me in. What's that all about? I think it's going to be quite saucy queer poetry, and I'm all about that. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for that one. I don't know if all of these books will fit in the description, so I should have probably said at the beginning, maybe have a pen and paper. The aforementioned McNally editions, I bought 2 this month for myself, last month, sorry, for myself, in February. I got Rent Boy, which is a book that all the Bookster gays have been talking about, and indeed trying to do their faces like, oh, nearly, out of all the ones I've done, this is possibly the best so far. This I'm really intrigued by. It's, well, all about a rent boy, I think in New York. And again, it's a book that's from the 90s that was kind of forgotten, so super duper intriguing. And the short story collection Loverman by Alston Anderson. If you read about Alston Anderson, it's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. I'm not going to tell you his story, you have to go and look it up like I did, but yeah, heartbreaking. Then I picked up A Million Aunties. It was half price somewhere, and I was tempted to wait for the paperback, but the paperback's awful. So I thought, right, I'll get this one. It's by Alicia Mackenzie, and Bernardine Evaristo's quoted it. It's from Dialogue Books, who I tend to have quite a good hit rate with when I read them. I don't read them enough, actually. I should, because I do like what they do. Now, I think it might be set... Yeah, it's set in the Caribbean, and like I was saying earlier, I want to read a lot more Caribbean literature, so I got that one. Penultimately, wow, this is going to be a long video, I can tell. Sorry or not sorry, depending if you like videos or long, if you like videos or not, if you like long videos or not. But then also, I'll have edited this probably, so lots of this will be shorter than you think. And then penultimately, we have The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I have plans to read a lot of Sylvia Moreno Garcia when I go to Mexico in a few weeks for a holiday. I've wanted to read her for a while, and that seems the perfect place. I feel like I might have to read The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells first, so that I get the riff properly. I got that one. And then last but not least, a book that I bought myself off my birthday wish list as a little treat, because I'd heard Brett, I think, talking about it. It's The Town of Babylon by Alejandro Varela, and this was up for the National Book Award last year. It is a queer tale of a man who grows up, where is it he grows up? But basically he goes back to his hometown when his father falls ill, and he's re-evaluating a rocky marriage that he's in, and he goes back to meet all the people that he knew when he was younger, and they're all in very differing situations, and it's how his relationships how his relationship is with them now, also what the history of those relationships are. Just sounds really interesting to me. So yeah, we have that. Wow, that was quite a lot of books, quite a long video. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in another video very, very soon. Bye. That was a really sudden ending. I'm so sorry. I feel like we were really together and then gone.